What's up and welcome to the video. So today we're going to be talking about the Pixel 8a. It is the latest mid-range phone from Google, and it's actually launching at the same price as last year's 7a, $499. But what does that sub 500 price tag get you? That is what we're here to talk about. So let's get into it. I think historically we've always been fans of the A series line of smartphones from Google because the idea is for a relatively affordable price tag. I'm not going to say that $500 is cheap, but for a relatively affordable price tag, you can get access to a lot of what Google has to offer, take some, cues from the flagship phones and stuff like that, and just gives it to you in a more, let's say, essential package, which is pretty cool. Now, there are some subtle differences between last year's 7a and this year's 8a. I would say the biggest thing I've noticed so far is just how the two smartphones differ in terms of looks, and they're subtle. But this year's 8a is really rounded across all of the corners. It still has that classic Pixel vibe, especially with the camera bar at the top, but you're going to have rounded bezels on the front, you're going to have rounded corners, and as far as what you're going to get from a hardware perspective, it's about what you'd expect for a $500 phone. So you have a plastic back, aluminum enclosure, glass on the front, and interestingly enough, some decently sized and slightly uneven bezels whenever it comes to the display. But other cool things to note, there is wireless charging and there is an IP67 water and dust resistance rating as well. Looks like the 8a is also rocking a slightly brighter display compared to last year, 1400 nits in HDR mode and up to 2000 nits peak max brightness, which is pretty cool to see on a display like this. And something that I personally love to see is the bump from a 90 hertz refresh rate to 120 hertz. Now, by default, the smooth display option is going to be turned off. So you're going to have to go into your display settings and turn it on once you get this phone. And it's also got like smart scaling. So depending on the content you're looking at, it's going to scale between 60 and 120. You're going to have to go into your developer options if you want to force the higher refresh rate. But again, I would say the big thing for me personally has been just how the phone looks. If I remember, last year's 7a was just a little bit boxier, a little bit sharper in terms of like the corners especially. These corners are very, very rounded. It's going to be a preferences thing, but for me personally, I like the sharper, more modern look. I feel like this was a step back in terms of display design, but again, that's all preference. You might actually really enjoy it. And if I also remember correctly, I think last year's 7a had a slightly larger chin on the bottom compared to the bezel on the top, so that kind of remains the same, but I feel like it's a little bit more prominent whenever the corners are this rounded. I don't know, but that's, like I said, going to come down to your own personal preference. The internals were also refreshed, which is pretty much expected at this point. So internally, we're now rocking the Tensor G3, which is the same chip that is on the 8 and the 8 Pro, so their flagship line of smartphones. That's pretty cool. There's also a slight upgrade to the type of RAM, not necessarily the amount. Still 8 gigabytes, but it's LPDDR5X, so slightly faster RAM as well. And on top of having a 128 gigabyte storage option, there's now a 256 gigabyte storage option as well. That was not available on last year's 7a. So you do have the option for more storage if you want it. But really the selling point for the A lineup of smartphones from Google is going to be software and software support. So with Tensor G3, you now have like all of the exclusive AI features that were on the 8 and the 8 Pro. Best shot, a magic editor, the audio magic editor, circle to search, Gemini's here, all of the cool, Google Assistant features that are built into the phone as well, like call screening, hold for me. There's so many awesome software features that are available on this smartphone. A lot of the AI stuff is going to be powered by Tensor G3, which is pretty cool to see. And they all actually work surprisingly well. Like I still have my 8 Pro. I absolutely love it. I still use it almost every single day to this date. And that's pretty great to see on a smartphone that is under $500. And on top of that, comes with Android 14 out of the box, and you're getting 7 years of software support, the same that we're seeing on the 8 and the 8 Pro. So that gives you quite a bit of value in and of itself. The Pixel software experience is still something that is absolutely fantastic in the Android realm of smartphones, and the 8a is absolutely no exception here. And when it comes to the camera system on the back of the phone, Google took the classic if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach, because we essentially have identical cameras from last year's 7a. And again, that's not a bad thing, but let's take a look at the specs. So 64 megapixel wide angle camera with a 13 megapixel ultra wide angle. So if having a telephoto lens is high up on your list, the 8a does not have one. But again, it's not a bad thing because last year's 7a camera system was actually really, really good for the price point. And the same thing holds true for the 8a. The Pixel takes fantastic pictures. I actually kind of got myself into a tongue twister there. But essentially, the pictures that come out of this phone are going to be exactly what you expect from a Pixel smartphone. I've trusted Google's image processing for years on end now. I still think that Pixels take fantastic smartphones. They're still some of my favorite smartphones to take still photos with. From a video perspective, you know, they're not necessarily best in class, but this is still going to be a fantastic camera setup for this particular smartphone. And again, now that you have Tensor G3, you have a lot more editing options available as well. So you can really make some fantastic photos with this smartphone, for sure. That just about does it for the Pixel 8a. This is actually a really good phone for the price. So $499, I mean, you're getting a 1080p display with a 120 hertz refresh rate, Tensor G3 inside, all sorts of software features and software support, great camera system, pretty decent build quality, and some nice features to have as well, wireless charging, water dust resistance rating. This is a pretty good phone for the price. Now, I did mention that there is a 256 gig version as well. You will have to skip out on pretty cool colors like this aloe color, which is really dope. But if you decide to go for the obsidian color, it does come in a 256 gig option for $60 more, so around $560. And I think this phone slots in pretty well with the current Pixel lineup. It's about $200 cheaper than the Pixel 8, which makes it a pretty compelling buy for a lot of people. So I think that just about does it. So if you enjoyed the review, consider hitting the subscribe button down below. I have to thank you guys personally. In the last video, prior to us uploading, I mentioned that we were close to breaking 10K, and we actually broke 10K as we uploaded the video. So a sincere thank you from me for breaking 10,000 subscribers. Y'all's support has been insane lately. So if you're new, consider hitting the subscribe button down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Peace.